Bully might just look like another Rockstar game, but hidden in the files and whispered about in forums are stories and mysteries darker than anything you'd ever expect from a game like this. From unused weapons and creepy audio files to urban legends in the town of Bulworth, today we'll be diving deep into the Bully Iceberg. If you don't know how an iceberg video works, the top of the iceberg is secrets that most casual players know, but as you go down deeper and deeper, they get more and more unknown. This is the Bully Iceberg. And also credit to the original Iceberg creator. I'll put a link to the Reddit post in the description. And just to let you know, this will be a two-part video where in the second part I'll go into the deepest depths of this iceberg. Let's just get into it. 7th chapter. If you didn't know, Bully has 6 chapters in the main story. However, data miners found in the original game files that there was actually supposed to be a 7th chapter with leftover dialogue and mission markers found. Now, there isn't any information on what it was about, but it was seen as an extra chapter that was cut late. Fans have speculated, however, that this chapter could have tied in with other cut content like the Punk's Click, or given us more endgame storylines instead of cutting the game off at Gary's downfall. The fact that there's leftover data suggests Rockstar got pretty far into developing it before scrapping it. Gregory. Gregory is an asylum NPC in some mission contexts with voice and dialogue. However, for some unknown reasons, Gregory does not appear during regular gameplay in the open world. He only shows up in the missions Galloway Away and Finding Johnny Vincent. What makes him interesting is that he's a fully fleshed out character with lines recorded, so clearly Rockstar did intend him to have more of a presence in the asylum. However, some players even think that he could have been a part of another cut mission arc. Flashlight. Bully was meant to originally have a flashlight as an item Jimmy could use. It's unclear as to why this was cut, as it would have been a very useful item for the player in dark areas of the map like the asylum or old Bulworth Vale at night. The asset was referenced in beta file dumps found by multiple data miners. It's one of those small things that could have made the game atmosphere creepier, especially during a nighttime free roam, so it feels like a missed opportunity. Ghost Girl. Ghost Girl refers to a community theory where players report sightings around the Girls' Dome in Bulworth Academy. Strange audio and creepy lines can be heard from that area, however no ghost character is present in game files as a supernatural entity. Most of the evidence is just ambient sounds and misinterpreted NPC lines. I mean, it's probably just an urban myth, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments. UFOs. Players reportedly mentioned sightings of oddly shaped lights or illusions in Bully Skybox. Now, as much as I would like to believe this, it is most likely always just Skybox artifacts, camera or lighting oddities rather than an intentional hidden UFO mechanic. And if you do see any images on the internet about UFOs being in the game and there's a legit UFO in the sky that you can see, it's most likely just Photoshop and it's not true at all. Sid. Sid is an unused student from Bulworth who was meant to be in the final release of the game. However, Sid is nowhere to be found as it appears he was cut from the game. He can be found in the beta builds of Bully where you can see his character model, and it looks like he was supposed to be a part of the Punk's Click, which is another removed group from the game. Many players notice a resemblance between Sid and Jimmy's early PS2 model since their faces are so alike, which makes some people believe Sid was an early placeholder for Jimmy. Gary's a werewolf. This is another Bully community theory where players believe Gary Smith's creepy personality and some dialogue indicates that he is a werewolf. A scar on the right eye of a werewolf mask worn by Trevor at Halloween is similar to Gary's scar on his face, but the werewolf's mask scar is actually a bit higher than Gary's, which is across his eye. It's probably coincidental, but fans still love connecting the dots and it fits Gary's eerie personality. Mr. Luntz is a serial killer. Mr. Luntz is the janitor and shop assistant at Bulworth Academy. Players speculate that he is a serial killer since multiple times he has referenced detesting students and even mentions his willingness to physically harm them.
I've been told it's okay to hit the children if there are no marks.
It's also presumed that Mr. Luntz lives in the school basement where he sleeps on a bare mattress. This has led many players to theorize that he is a serial killer who brings his victims down there when there's no one around at night. While it's just a theory, his dialogue and environment do give off creepy vibes. The Paddle. The Paddle is an unused mission that was cut from the game. It is unknown exactly where in the story it was meant to appear, but it's known it was in the chapter 4. The mission would have involved Jimmy stealing Dr. Crabblesnitch's paddle from his office, then framing Damon for the crime. Deadpool XYZ, a well-known bully YouTuber, made a video showing the leftover cutscene camera data in the files. If this mission had stayed in, it would have added more chaos between Jimmy and Damon. Algie has asthma. Algie's character performances include him wheezing and speaking lines that suggest he has breathing problems. This isn't a cut feature, just a bit of a detail Rockstar added to his character. Players do notice it a lot since his audio cues are so consistent. It's a small but memorable part of what makes Algie stand out compared to the other nerd characters in the clip. Haunted Paper Mill. This myth originates from an NPC named McInnes, who talks about paranormal occurrences at a paper mill.
This goddamn government won't do nothing to investigate the paper mill. They say supernatural occurrences ain't their department.
The paper mill itself was cut content that never made it into the map. Combined with unused sound files, this gave birth to the haunted paper mill theory. Fans have built up stories and speculations around it, treating it like an urgent legend in the bully community. Rain and umbrellas. While rain appears in the game, it's very rare. When it does, NPCs will sometimes pull out umbrellas and run to the nearest building to cover themselves. Now, if you don't remember seeing rain in Bully, that's because it doesn't happen often outside of mission scripting or chapter changes. It is a small detail, but it shows how advanced Bully's world design was for 2006. Super Spud Gun. The Super Spud Gun is basically an upgraded version of the regular Spud Gun. It was cut from the game but remains in the files, so it can be still modded back in. The weapon has the same power, audio and animations as the regular Spud Gun, but it does look bulkier. Fans often wonder why it was cut since it was a fully working item. BMX tricks. The BMX bike was originally supposed to allow the players to perform tricks. There are leftover animations showing Jimmy doing stunts like spins and jumps and some 360s. Some modded versions of the game show how these tricks could have looked. Unfortunately, however, the feature was cut, likely for time or technical reasons. That's disgusting. The line, "That's disgusting," is unused dialogue from Edna the lunch lady. It was originally supposed to be included in the mission The Big Game, however the line actually ended up being used in Hattrick vs Galloway.
You! What are you doing? That's disgusting!
No one really understands why it was moved, but it's one of those little quirks in Bully's audio files that fans have picked up on. Customizable bike. Bully originally was meant to let the player customize their bike, from respraying the body to changing the wheels. This feature was cut and probably due to the scope. Since bikes are one of Jimmy's main form of transport, it would have been a fun feature. YouTuber Swegter has a video going into more detail on this cut content that you should definitely check out. Bully comic book. If you didn't know, and I certainly didn't before researching this video, Bully actually had a comic book bundle with the collector's edition. It takes place during the beta storyline where Russell was the main antagonist instead of Gary. It also mentions removed characters like Fleas, who isn't even seen in the beta builds. The comic shows how much Bully's story changed before release, and I want to make a whole video breaking it down in more detail, so if that's something you want to see, drop it in the comments. Bullying girls. Bully disallows certain aggressive interactions against female NPCs, likely because Rockstar wants to avoid controversy, but earlier in development it was possible to target female characters the same way you can do with boys. Rockstar must have decided to remove it later in development. It's clear they wanted to minimize backlash, though it didn't really stop news outlets from going after Bully anyways.
They coming out with a game where children can beat their teachers up. Children can beat their classmates up.
These are things that are depicted in the game.
In the game, right. You can form rival gangs against each other to turn their school into chaos.
Game Dude. Game Dude is a parody handheld console of the Game Boy. You can find one in the basement of the comic book shop on a table. And what's interesting is that on the console screen, you can see a very early build of Bully, showing characters with different art styles from the final release. It's one of those tiny details that shows how much the art direction evolved, and some fans even wonder if a more cartoony Bully might have worked better stylistically. Happy Vault's Asylum is a cult. Players interpret the creepy design of Happy Vault's Asylum plus some unused voice lines as hints at cult-like activity.
No! No! No!
Phase 1 of the plan is complete. Now all I need is the monkey and the plywood violin.
Fools! you think incarcerating me will save you, but it won't.
There are eerie audio cues and environmental details that make the place feel more sinister than just a mental hospital. While there's no canon cult storyline, this theory is a popular one in the community. Another video by the YouTuber Swegter has a whole video exploring this theory in depth. Unused drowning animation. Bully was supposed to include a drowning or knockout in water mechanic. Animations exist for Jimmy sinking, though in the final game, if you're knocked out in water, it just fades to black. NPCs can't drown either, they'll just swim forever until they return to land. The leftover animations suggest this feature was planned but dropped, maybe because it clashed with the game's tone. Winning Consumo. Consumo is an in-game arcade minigame. You can beat it, but there's long been speculation that more was planned after the high score. Some fans think they were meant to be additional arcade games or rewards that never made it into the final release. Since Consumo is so basic, it makes sense people suspect it was only part of a bigger plan for arcade content. First person mode. First person mode is possible with mods on PC and some mobile versions. It lets you see the game through Jimmy's eyes when running, climbing or biking. Some early builds had camera flags for a first person view, which is how modders figured out how to re-enable it. It's a feature Rockstar clearly experimented with but decided not to include it in the final game. And that is part 1 of the Bully Iceberg. I did want to get this video out quickly, but part 2 will be out as soon as possible. I also want to thank everyone for helping me reach 100 subscribers. It does really mean a lot, and I'll keep pushing towards the next milestone of 1,000. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe. And if you want to see the state of the GTA trilogy in 2025 and whether you should consider buying it, click the video on screen now. And I'll see you in the next one.